This is Sway.
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 In the morning.
In the morning.
In the morning.
Shake that fire.
Wake your fuck ass up.
Sway in the morning.
That's right, Sway in the morning, shade 4 or 5, 33 minutes into the hour. Heather B, we got a very special guest joining us. Mike Muse, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Tracy G, what up?
Mike,
I love you.
where you been in your travels in the past week? Normally when I talk to you, you're yes, last week you were in D.C., right?
Yeah, last week I was in D.C., man. I've been local for the last 2 weeks, so
Okay.
I've been domestic all this week, and then I start traveling again on Friday to L.A., and then next Wednesday I head to Spain and Paris.
Yeah, what for though, Mike?
Yeah.
Instead of you just stunting, you're just telling us, I'm going to Paris, I'm going to Spain, but what are you going out there to do?
Oh yeah, my bad. So Spain, I have to give a TED Talk.
Shit! Wait, hold up. What's going to be your subject matter?
Discussing class.
Okay.
The sights and sounds of privilege.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
okay.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate it.
Is that immediately going to be online?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm here
Mike
for
Muse
it.
is doing the TED Talk.
I
You
got to
hear that,
rub
Heather
your
B?
hands, Mike. That's one of my life goals.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited. So I'm really thankful. So I can't wait to talk to the citizens over there in Spain and
Huge.
get a chance to connect with them. So I'm
Pretty
excited.
good, man. Don't mess this up.
No, I'm not. No pressure.
Our really special guest that's joining us, I met him in person at least at Del Frisco's, and we were hobnobbing over a bowl of lobster bisque, Heather B. That's what we do, not everybody doing that,
Tracy G, that's that class.
Right. Look,
That's class.
That's right. We did have some champagne. Had a little bubbly too.
Yeah.
1% life.
He's a principal at Caldwell Strategic Consulting. He does commentating for Fox News Channel, Fox Business Channel, CNN, HLN, various national news networks. And he's here with us today, Gianno Caldwell, ladies and gentlemen.
We out here.
Yes,
Thank
man.
you for having me.
Gianno is a pretty interesting. Is that Italian or?
It is Italian.
Yeah.
It
Any
is.
in your lineage?
So my birth name is Gianni. My parents changed it 3 days after my birth to Gianno.
Okay.
And nobody is Italian. Everybody's black. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Was that for like your resume or something?
Yeah, they said we want you to get a job,
Okay.
so we're gonna, keep it,
Yeah.
one of those. But straight off the south side of Chicago, so we out here for real.
Oh, the Midwest.
We out here, yeah.
What's up, Midwest?
I was just watching Barbershop 3
Okay.
last night, and it's based out of Chicago. One of the reasons why Ice Cube agreed to do it was if they talk about the issues that are plaguing Chicago right now.
There's
man.
a lot of issues for sure.
Yeah, what's up with your mayor?
I don't know. He shouldn't have been reelected, honestly.
Yeah.
The guy is a hot mess. I mean, he was a hot mess from the beginning, my opinion. But I don't think there's a chance that he'll actually be able to run again. He'll be so weakened, and there's people already bidding for the job. So it's a horrible situation, and he's only made it worse.
He's only made it worse, right? Were you a part of the movement that was against Chirac being made in Chicago?
Nah, I wasn't a part. I was in D.C. already. I've been in D.C. for 4 years now, but anything that's going to expose what's going on, I'm all for it.
All for it?
I'm all for it.
Well, let me get your opinion on this. We've all been paying close attention to this presidential run that's taking place, or circus, or whatever you want to call it. It's been extremely entertaining. We had Anderson Cooper up here 2 days ago, and we were talking about his interviews with some of the candidates, and of course Donald Trump popped up.
Right.
And we talked about when Anderson Cooper referred to him as a 5-year-old, that they were going back and forth about what happened with his campaign manager grabbing a woman and who did what, and then the pictures of Ted Cruz's wife being posted. Ted Cruz's wife being posted, and so it made me think about this comment that the Secretary of State made on MSNBC's Morning Joe. John Kerry had this to say about our current election, and when he's talking to people outside of the United States, foreign representatives, this is what he deals with.
I'm confident in the end the American people are going to choose wisely, and I feel as if this current craziness, which is embarrassing our country abroad, I cannot tell you. Every meeting I have anywhere, people say, what is happening in the United States? What are you doing to yourself?
Yeah. Are we considering that? I mean, how does this hurt? Is our country looking weak because of this presidential campaign, in your opinion?
Well, I would say that there has been a number of embarrassing moments, and I think there will continue to be a number of embarrassing moments. Do I think it make our country look weak? Yeah. Not necessarily, because it's democracy at play. At the end of the day, people choose their candidate. Who do they want to represent the United States of America in the various parties? So it's democracy at play. It's definitely an unconventional race for sure, and no one can deny that. Donald Trump, I mean, he's New York bred, so it's become a very interesting time for sure.
In regards of the comments he's made about his foreign policy, do you feel like he's strong?
I mean, I don't think anybody really feels that he's strong on foreign policy. His rhetoric has been just that. There hasn't been any formal policy positions in terms of this is what I have in writing, this is what I'm looking to do. It's been kind of inflamed rhetoric, but it appeals to both parties, Democrats and Republicans. Maybe it's a minority in both parties, but it's definitely appealing in some way, shape, or form.
What do you think, Mike Muse, in terms of foreign policy, out of all the candidates, who you think has had the strongest stance?
Well, by default, Secretary Hillary Clinton, just because she's Secretary of State. So just by description alone, she has to go across the country and represent our nation and represent our policies and really engage with these foreign dignitaries across the world. What I would say, though, to your first question, Sway, is that this does, as America has awakened to this underbelly, to this undercurrent of this visceral hate, this visceral anger that is now spewed amongst white men and white women, America is now realizing some of the ugly side of itself and how it's being expressed. Just as we're realizing it, so as the rest of the world is realizing it too as well. And so I think they're looking at us now with pause for the first time, because we've always been this country and this government that's had strong control. We've had a steady hand. We've already had things in place. And so we seem a little bit disheveled. And I would have to say we haven't seen nothing yet. I think you're right, Gianno, when we talk about the convention and the democratic process, but that's going to become upended during the convention time period. Not only for the Republicans, but now there's some whispers from the Sanders that he's trying to unseat some of the pledged delegates from Secretary Clinton, as well as he's trying to unseat some of her super delegates. So you take that into play from democracy, and then you look at, you go into the Republican convention, and you have the Republican Party literally trying to create a broker convention. So it wasn't that Cruz won last night, more so that Trump lost. And he lost at the hands of the Republican Party, who wants his broker convention, who wants to see literally a fight on the floor. So we don't know how this democracy is going to play out. So
was he expected to lose Wisconsin last night, or was it because of the bad 2 weeks he just had? He just initially we always thought no matter how bad it is for Trump, he's going to rebound from it.
Right.
What was he expected to lose last night?
Well, polls showed that he was going to lose. It showed that he had about a 5-point difference between Senator Ted Cruz and himself. The idea is if he can talk about trade, which has decimated the economy in Wisconsin to a degree in terms of jobs leaving to go somewhere else, and that was, as we saw leaving the polling places, that was one of the things that voters said. It was about trade for them. But it was somewhat surprising that even with that being such a top priority, that they gave it to Senator Ted Cruz. Although he did have the endorsement of a very popular governor, Governor Scott Walker. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is one situation, and to your point, Mike, this is a situation for the first time ever. Republicans, conservatives, and Tea Party agree on a candidate. They don't want Donald Trump. So, this is the first time ever for that.
But with that being said, though, that's what's interesting. So he did take a claim into Wisconsin. So Trump actually thought he could win in Wisconsin a little bit early on. He did have a bad week. But what's interesting was that it was how many super PACs ran against him, how many of the establishment ran against him. So when you're taking on not just your opponents, but you're taking on the establishment, you take on Republican leaders, and then you're running against a super PAC who has tons of money to outpour. So it was, I wouldn't say it was rigged, but he had a tough hill to climb just from that momentum alone.
You know, Ted Cruz, notorious for making long victory speeches, had this to say last night after winning Wisconsin.
In the Republican race, will Donald Trump face a new loss to Ted Cruz, or will the GOP frontrunner bounce back from a series of controversies? In the Democratic race, Hillary Clinton is facing a tough fight against Bernie Sanders tonight. Will he add to his recent winning streak?
I believe that Hillary Clinton is a better candidate because of Bernie Sanders.
Oh, that was the wrong clip. All right, but we'll come right back with Gianno Caldwell and Mike Muse. You want to chime in on what happened last night? 888-742-3345. Give us a call.
Now more of the Daily News on Sway in the Morning.
It is a rallying cry. It is a call from the hardworking men and women of Wisconsin to the people of America. We have a choice, a real choice. The national political terrain began to change 2 weeks ago.
That was Ted Cruz after his victory in Wisconsin. Following a rough week for Donald Trump on the campaign trail that included missteps on abortion as well as the controversial comments he made on national security. But are those things what hurt him last night in the election? What do you in the primaries? Mike Muse, yay or nay?
Yes, I think it had a part to do with it. Yes, he had a really tough week with that. But I think it also part in the other things that we talked about before we get into the break in terms of all the super PACs, establishments, Republicans really trying this stop Trump movement. Yeah. That really took hold in part with him having a bad week. Trump always usually has a bad week, has a bad day. He can usually bounce back from it. But this point, the Republican Party is over it now. And so they're all coming together against him. Yeah.
Gianno Caldwell has joined us. By the way, if you want to reach Gianno Caldwell, you can directly on his social media.
At Gianno Caldwell, Gianno Caldwell, Caldwell. Twitter.
Yeah, on Twitter. Heather B made a great suggestion for Hillary Clinton that she felt like would strengthen her ticket. You know what I'm talking about, Heather B, who you thought she should...
I thought that, and Tracy G and I were talking about it as well, that she should tell Bernie Sanders, win or lose, I want to bring you on as my vice president. That was my opinion, to show some loyalty, because she was suffering in that area. People didn't trust her. She seemed like the person who's sort of shady at this point. I mean, even with her showing up at Black Girls Rock, there was huge backlash from that. Serious. It was huge backlash from her showing up at Black Girls Rock. So people are not feeling her, and she seems to be the type of person that's in it for self. Yeah. So I just thought, here's an opportunity for her to show some sort of loyalty.
Yeah. What do you think, Gianno, about that idea for her?
Well, I mean, to your point, I absolutely agree, and especially when it comes to some of the things she said about African Americans in the past, calling young inner city youth, which is code for black youth, super predators. When she's advocated for the 1994 crime bill, which is imprisoned a number of African Americans, and now when certain issues come up, when it comes to some of the racial justice platforms that Bernie Sanders has brought up, now it's a part of her platform. So wherever it seems that she can get votes, she'll say whatever's necessary. So she comes out as inauthentic and disingenuous often. So I find that to be problematic. But I think in terms of Hillary Clinton, things that she can do to kind of pull or shore up her base would be to, I mean, that's a good idea, but I don't think that's going to necessarily pull in what she needs to pull in. She needs a young ethnic person, probably the Secretary of Housing, which is somebody whom they said would be a good vice presidential choice. But Bernie Sanders is on fire right now, and he has the youth pouring into his campaign and candidacy. But I don't know if that's going to be the end all be all for her in terms of pulling him on, if that was the case.
Here's what Bernie Sanders had to say after his Wisconsin victory.
With our victory tonight in Wisconsin, we have now won 7 out of 8 of the last caucuses and primaries. And we have won almost all of them with overwhelming landslide numbers. To paraphrase Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg, this is a campaign of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Wow, man. Sound like a Lil Wayne concert. Right?
And one last point on that. The reason why it probably wouldn't work out as well is because Bernie is heavily against Wall Street, and Hillary Clinton is in the pocket of Wall Street.
Yeah, she has a lot of friends.
So to me, my opinion anyway, I should say.
So, Mike, Bernie believes that this win and this momentum will take him all the way to the White House. What is your opinion on what Heather suggested for the Hillary Clinton ticket? And is he being realistic?
Yeah, but there's a couple of things. One, to address Bernie Sanders' potential vice presidential candidate. Usually what happens is when a president picks a vice president, the strategy behind it is, where can they add to my deficiencies? Where am I weak on? That's number one. Number two is, what state can they win for me, right? So you usually pick a vice president based upon state. So it's usually a bit of strategy with that. The reason why Bernie, I don't know if makes a really great candidate for that, is Bernie struggles with really bringing together a coalition of diverse individuals. He usually tends to white males and then in the youth, but then that skews more white majorative when it comes to that kind of perspective. And so there is a downside to him for that. And as Gianna said also too with Wall Street, there is some talk about, will he pick the Castro, to what you're talking about. There's also too another secretary, former of Agriculture, Perez, who's being considered too as well. So we might not normally see the vice president who's already been on the platform debating her. They'll usually like to go for the shock factor that can kind of add increasing to the polls. And so Bernie has his weakness too as well. In terms of what happens with the Clintons and with African Americans, she actually has a strong show of support in the African American community. And she actually does have a strong record for her as an individual. What we have to begin, and we will begin to see separate as time goes on, is her record versus her husband's record. She gets tied to Bill Clinton's 3 strikes you're out rule. She gets tied to Bill Clinton's policy of increasing the prison population with the Congress. She wasn't in Congress at the time, and that was her husband who was doing that. So as we begin to see the difference and the distance between that, we'll see that she worked with the Children's Defense Fund and other advocacy programs for that. She also has been really big involved with the mothers of sons and daughters who've lost themselves to gun violence recently. So she started a coalition to get a conversation started around that. Now, let's move on to the
sound
probability.
like you campaigning for her right now. Damn, man. Jeez.
No, I just want to make sure that we had each side. I want to understand, what I want to understand, people are decisions, understand the tactics of how you pick a vice president. And then I want to give both sides of the equation and allow the citizens to choose for themselves when it comes to that. Now, when it comes to Bernie and his chance of winning the White House, he has momentum and is looking great. He's a really good-looking candidate right now. But mathematically, it is now impossible. So the math just isn't there for him. And I think that's a hard reality for a lot of people to accept. But Bernie, I can't fault him for wanting to keep going. He's raising significant records amounts of money. There is no reason for him to get out of the race right now.
And his speaking engagement fee is going to be crazy after he loses Heather, so you might as well keep promoting, right?
Shout out to Killer Mike.
Okay, Gianno Caldwell has joined us. You can reach him on Twitter at the same address. We have Lil J from Chicago on the line. Lil J, what up?
Jay.
What's happening, Sway, Heather B, Tracy, Q, Wanda, DJ Wonder, and I'm glad you got my man. I don't want to butcher his name, Gianno. I believe it is.
Hey.
Yeah, what's happening? I'm from Chicago. I'm from the West Side, bro.
Okay.
And I just want to say that when it comes to these candidates, man, I'm tired of them talking instead of talking to us. They're talking around us. Like, for example, they were talking about the big heroin problem up in New Hampshire and whatnot. Now, it's been a problem in Chicago, as you may know, for years. But now, as soon as it gets into New Hampshire, the upper class areas, where the rich folks live, when they have a problem, now it's this big thing. So I would like to hear you speak on that, man, and knowing how that drug has been tearing up our city for years. And I would like to hear you touch on that, man, please, if you don't mind.
No, absolutely, and that's a great point. Yes, it got in the suburbs, and now there's things that have been rather implemented towards it. There was a bill that was passed in Congress to take care of that issue, if you will, or address it rather. Now, we got to keep in mind where the funding for some of these heroin addictions and some of these other areas of drug addiction that we've seen, the people going to the prison population, et cetera, a lot of the funding for rehabilitative services left in the 94 crime bill. So when that crime bill, which was passed by the Clintons, went into effect, the money that would usually be provided to rehabilitate those individuals went out the window, leading to a recidivism rate of 75% after 5 years.
Wow.
So this is an issue that's now really being addressed now. And yes, I agree. When there's a issue that impacts another group of people, if you want to say specifically white people, there's citizens that are going to go up to their members of Congress and say, hey, this is impacting my neighborhood. I want you to do something about it. And we're seeing it being addressed. Is it fair? No, not really, because it should be a concern of everyone when something happens and it impacts a majority of folks. But now it's being addressed, and I'm happy to see it being addressed.
Okay. Hey, Lil J, thanks for your call, man. You're a citizen.
That's way in the morning.
All right. Let's go to Illinois. We have Jeff on the line.
What's
Jeff,
up,
good
Jeff?
morning.
Jeffrey.
What up, Jeff?
How you guys doing?
Doing okay, man. What are your thoughts?
Man, I just I want to ask Heather, or I actually agree with Heather, about Hillary Clinton. If she comes out and says something to Bernie Sanders, hey, win, lose, or draw, I want you on my side. But I also think that's going to make her look weak, and that's why I don't think she does that right now. But, man, honestly, with all the stuff going on in Wisconsin, I guess my question is, how the hell do we keep – how the hell is Ted Cruz a viable candidate? How is Donald Trump a viable candidate? Like up in Wisconsin, they elected Scott Walker. How the hell are some of these people still good candidates?
Mike, you wanna how do you touch on that?
First
Mike?
of all, I love your energy, I love your passion, so thank you for that and for the call and for your question. But Sway, that kind of goes into the first question with the previous caller from Chicago who asked about some of the issues and voices getting heard. The reason why Trump actually is winning is because there was a voice that had been ignored for so long, and they didn't feel that they had anybody advocating for how they thought. They didn't have anybody, and what people fail to realize is that they think that Trump's ascension is a condemnation on President Obama and a condemnation on the Democrats. What we don't include in that conversation that it's also a condemnation of the Republican Party. They feel that the Republican Party hasn't done enough for the working white male class as well. So that's where the anger is actually coming from, which when Trump comes up and his unapologetic self and he says all the things that he says, which is strong and which isn't politics as usual. We've never seen this in the kind of campaign style. They like that and they feel like there's somebody like me who's going to go in and do something. Because whatever is happening now isn't working. He's going to come and do something. So that's how we see a Trump rise. Now, Carl, with your question with that is, Cruz, what we're not talking about is he's even more dangerous than Trump is if you look at it from a policy perspective. Trump, what he's talking about, we realistically know it's impossible for him to get done just because it's difficult to pass through legislation in Congress when it comes to that. Cruz, on the other hand, knows the Constitution backwards and forwards. He's a constitutional scholar, and he has been in the Senate, so he understands Robert's Rule of Order, which are procedural rules and methods and strategies that you utilize to get your bills passed. So he actually has the smarts and the tactics in order to implement some of the things that some would say on the fringe it's possible to do. We also must keep in mind that he had no friends in the Senate. None of the Republican senators actually like Ted Cruz. So you're right, caller. I don't know how we got to space, but it's because of this Trump movement, and they don't know what to do.
So mathematically, he still has a chance?
Well, there is one slim chance mathematically that he could do it. Trump or Cruz? Cruz. No, there's no mathematical pathway right now for Cruz to be able to become the nomination. He's solely banking on a broker convention. Trump, on the other hand, is a slim margin, but he has to do really well in the northeastern states, California, the western states. You're going to have issues when it comes to like Idaho, Wyoming, and that northwest area.
What was like Robert's Rules of Process?
Robert's Rule of Order.
Robert's Rule of Order.
Yeah.
Who's Robert?
So some old guy back in the English days who created a system.
It's my uncle cousin.
That's your uncle cousin, Gianno? Okay. All right. Look, we like to leave a question for our citizenship and for people to keep this conversation going. You can reach Mike Muse directly. And Gianno Caldwell, you can reach him, too, if you want to interact with him about this question. Mike Muse, what is the question we're going to leave for the citizens?
Should Republicans go for a broker convention, or should they just go ahead and just give it to Donald Trump for democracy's sake?
Should the Republicans go for a broken convention or give it to Donald Trump for democracy's sake? You can hit Mike Muse directly at
I am Mike Muse. I am Mike Muse, M-U-S-N-S-A-M-E on Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, and Instagram.
Citizens, hit up Gianno, too. Tell him what your thoughts are on this.
Well, my thoughts on the question?
No. The citizens are going to tell you, and then you can respond to them.
At Gianno Caldwell, Gianno Caldwell. Again, that's Gianno Caldwell on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And I don't have a Snapchat. That's like cool people.
Your Mike's
super
cool.
Young, cool.
Mike's
gotta get on there, man. You gotta get on there,
Gianno, thanks for coming by this morning, man.
Thank you,
Absolutely, man.
It's great having you.
We'll be posting this on Sway's Universe today on the website and on the YouTube channel. Make sure you look out for that. We got sports up next.
Yeah, we do, Sway. The Golden State Warriors are now 4 games away from making history.
Okay, thank you. Shade 4-5.
Kudos.